Question 1. The developers find themselves consistently unable to complete their forecast work by the end of the sprint. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master to take in this situation? I. Re-estimate the remaining product backlog items for the developers to ensure accuracy. B. Coach the developers on self-management and help them identify why their forecasts are inaccurate. C. Direct the product owner to remove some low-priority items from the sprint backlog immediately. D. Report the developer's performance issue to their functional manager for disciplinary action. Answer: B. Coach the developers on self-management and help them identify why their forecasts are inaccurate. The Scrum Master's role is to act as a servant leader, coaching the developers to improve their self-managing capabilities rather than dictating solutions or acting as a manager. When forecasts are consistently off, the Scrum Master should guide the team to inspect their process, understand their capacity, and adapt their planning strategies during events like sprint planning and the Daily Scrum. For example, they might facilitate a discussion during the retrospective about what factors lead to missed forecasts and how to refine their estimating techniques. Remember, the Scrum Master empowers the team to solve their own problems. Question 2. During a sprint, a key stakeholder approaches a developer directly with an urgent request for a new feature. How should the developer best respond according to Scrum principles? I. Add the request directly to the sprint backlog to address it immediately. B. Politely inform the stakeholder to discuss the request with the product owner. C. Stop current work to implement the new feature, as it is urgent. D. Promise to include the feature in the next sprint planning meeting. Answer: B. Politely inform the stakeholder to discuss the request with the product owner. The product owner is the sole person responsible for managing the product backlog, which includes ordering items and ensuring the value of the work the Scrum team performs. Developers should not directly accept new work or changes from stakeholders during a sprint, as this bypasses the product owner's accountability and can jeopardize the sprint goal. Directing the stakeholder to the product owner ensures that all new work is properly prioritized and considered for future sprints, maintaining the integrity of the sprint backlog and sprint goal. This reinforces the idea that the product owner is the single point of contact for external requests. Question 3. What is the primary purpose of the Daily Scrum? I. To report progress to the product owner and Scrum Master. B. To inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. C. To assign new tasks to developers for the day. D. To review completed work and discuss any issues with stakeholders. Answer: B. To inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog as necessary. The Daily Scrum is a key event for developers to synchronize their activities and create a plan for the next 24 hours, focusing on how they will work together to achieve the sprint goal. It's an internal inspection and adaptation meeting for the developers, not a status report to management or other roles. By inspecting progress towards the sprint goal, the developers can identify impediments, adjust their plan, and ensure they remain on track, fostering self-management. Think of it as a quick huddle to make sure everyone is aligned and moving in the right direction. Question 4. The product backlog is ordered by which primary factor? I. Size of the items. B. Technical complexity. C. Value, risk, priority, and necessity. D. The order in which stakeholders request items. Answer: C. Value, risk, priority, and necessity. The product backlog is an emergent, ordered list of what is needed to improve the product, and its primary purpose is to maximize the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team. The product owner is accountable for this ordering, which is influenced by various factors including business value, the risks involved, dependencies, and how essential an item is. While size and technical complexity might factor into how items are broken down, they are not the primary ordering criteria themselves. Always prioritize items to deliver the most valuable and necessary features early. Question 5. Which of the following is not a commitment associated with a Scrum artifact? I. Product goal for the product backlog. B. Sprint goal for the sprint backlog. C. Definition of ready for product backlog items. D. Definition of done for the increment. Answer, C. Definition of ready for product backlog items. The Scrum Guide specifies 3 commitments that exist to reinforce empiricism and the Scrum values for the Scrum team and its stakeholders: the product goal for the product backlog, the sprint goal for the sprint backlog, and the definition of done for the increment. While some teams may use a definition of ready to ensure product backlog items are well understood before a sprint, it is not a formal commitment defined within the Scrum framework. These commitments help bring transparency and focus to each artifact. Question 6. The Scrum team is consistently failing to deliver a done increment by the end of the sprint. What is the most crucial element the Scrum Master should focus on improving first? I. The clarity of product backlog items. B. The product owner's availability to the developers. C. The definition of done. D. The frequency of sprint reviews. Answer, C. The definition of done. A done increment is a fundamental aspect of Scrum, ensuring transparency and providing a usable product. If the team consistently fails to deliver a done increment, it often points to an issue with the definition of done itself, either because it's not clear enough, too ambitious for the team's current capabilities, or not being consistently applied. The Scrum Master should facilitate a discussion during the sprint retrospective to inspect and adapt the definition of done, making it more realistic or addressing the capabilities needed to meet it. Ensuring a clear, agreed-upon definition of done is paramount for producing valuable, releasable increments. Question 7. A new development team member joins during an ongoing sprint. What should the Scrum Master advise regarding this new member's immediate focus? I. They should immediately pick up new product backlog items to help achieve the sprint goal. B. They should shadow existing developers and learn the codebase and team practices without taking on new work. C. They should be assigned specific, easy tasks from the sprint backlog by the Scrum Master. D. They should work with the product owner to refine upcoming product backlog items. Answer, B. They should shadow existing developers and learn the codebase and team practices without taking on new work. Integrating a new team member effectively during a sprint often means prioritizing their orientation and learning over immediate productivity. The sprint goal is already set, and adding new work or immediately expecting contributions can disrupt the team's focus and potentially jeopardize the sprint goal. The Scrum Master should coach the team to facilitate the new member's integration, allowing them to observe, understand the product, and learn team processes and codebase without the pressure of contributing to the current sprint goal. This approach ensures a smoother long-term integration and protects the sprint's focus. Question 8. Who is primarily accountable for maximizing the value of the product resulting from the work of the Scrum team? I. The Scrum Master. B. The developers. C. The product owner. D. The entire Scrum team equally. Answer, C. The product owner. The product owner is solely accountable for maximizing the value of the product by effectively managing the product backlog. This involves making critical decisions about what the Scrum team should work on next, balancing various factors like business value, market needs, and technical considerations. While the entire Scrum team collaborates, the specific accountability for value maximization rests with the product owner. Their decisions directly influence the product's success and market impact. Question 9. During the sprint review, stakeholders express dissatisfaction with the progress and suggest several significant changes to the product backlog. Who is responsible for deciding whether to incorporate these changes into the product backlog? I. The Scrum Master, after consulting with the developers. B. The product owner, in collaboration with the stakeholders. C. The developers, as they are the ones who will implement them. D. The Scrum team collectively, by vote. Answer, B. The product owner, in collaboration with the stakeholders. The sprint review is a collaborative working session where the Scrum team and stakeholders inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. The product owner is accountable for the product backlog, which means they are the sole authority for its content and ordering. While they gather feedback and insights from stakeholders and the developers, the final decision on incorporating changes and updating the product backlog rests with the product owner. This ensures a single point of accountability for product direction and value maximization. Question 10. Which Scrum value is primarily demonstrated when developers openly share challenges and impediments during the daily Scrum? I. Commitment. B. Focus. C. Openness. D. Respect. Answer, C. Openness. Openness means the Scrum team and its stakeholders are transparent about the work and the challenges with performing it. When developers openly discuss impediments, progress, or potential roadblocks during the daily Scrum, they are demonstrating openness, allowing everyone to be aware of the real situation. This transparency is crucial for timely inspection and adaptation within the sprint, fostering trust and enabling the team to collaboratively address issues. Sharing challenges ensures that problems don't fester in silence. Question 11. What is the primary purpose of a sprint retrospective? I. To inspect the increment and adapt the product backlog. B. To discuss what went well, what could be improved, and create a plan for improvements. C. To demonstrate the completed work to stakeholders and gather feedback. D. To re-estimate remaining product backlog items for the next sprint. Answer, B. To discuss what went well, what could be improved, and create a plan for improvements. The sprint retrospective is a formal opportunity for the Scrum team to inspect itself and create a plan for improvements to be enacted during the next sprint. It focuses on processes, tools, interactions, and the definition of done, aiming to increase quality and effectiveness. Unlike the sprint review which focuses on the product, the retrospective focuses on the how of the work. This continuous improvement mindset is vital for a high-performing Scrum team. Question 12. A Scrum Master notices that the developers are regularly working extra hours to meet the sprint goal. What is the most appropriate initial action for the Scrum Master? I. Congratulate the developers for their dedication and commitment. B. Facilitate a discussion with the developers about their sustainable pace and sprint planning during a retrospective. C. Request the product owner to reduce the scope of future sprints. D. Suggest that the developers increase their velocity targets to reflect their true capacity. Answer, B. Facilitate a discussion with the developers about their sustainable pace and sprint planning during a retrospective. Scrum advocates for a sustainable pace, meaning developers should be able to work without excessive overtime. If they are regularly working extra hours, it indicates an issue with their capacity planning, forecasting, or potentially their definition of done. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the team to improve their process, and the sprint retrospective is the ideal event to discuss these systemic issues. This allows the self-managing team to inspect their working habits and adapt their approach for future sprints, ensuring both productivity and team well-being. Question 13. The product owner frequently changes the order of product backlog items during an ongoing sprint. What should the Scrum Master do? I. Advise the product owner that changes to the product backlog should primarily happen during sprint planning. B. Coach the product owner on the importance of stable sprint goals and the impact of mid-sprint changes. C. Remind the developers that they are self-managing and can decide whether to accept the changes. D. Do nothing, as the product owner is accountable for the product backlog. Answer: B. Coach the product owner on the importance of stable sprint goals and the impact of mid-sprint changes. While the product owner is accountable for the product backlog, frequent changes during a sprint can destabilize the sprint goal and impede the developer's ability to focus and deliver. The Scrum Master should act as a coach, explaining the negative impacts of such behavior on the team's focus and commitment, and guide the product owner towards more stable sprint backlog and sprint goal practices. This ensures the sprint goal remains achievable and the team's ability to commit is protected. Question 14. What is the approximate time box for a daily scrum? I. 30 minutes for a 1-month sprint. B. 15 minutes, regardless of sprint length. C. 10 minutes per developer. D. As long as needed, provided it's productive. Answer: B. 15 minutes, regardless of sprint length. The daily scrum is timeboxed to a maximum of 15 minutes for every sprint, irrespective of its duration. This strict timebox encourages brevity and focus, ensuring the meeting remains concise and focused on the developer's plan for the next 24 hours to achieve the sprint goal. It is an internal team meeting for the developers, emphasizing quick synchronization rather than detailed problem solving. Keeping it short and focused helps maintain energy and momentum for the day's work. Question 15. Who is ultimately responsible for ensuring the sprint backlog is visible and transparent to all interested parties? I. The Scrum Master. B. The product owner. C. The developers. D. The entire Scrum team. Answer: C. The developers. The sprint backlog is created by and primarily for the developers. They are accountable for managing it, which includes ensuring its transparency and visibility, as it details their plan for achieving the sprint goal and the increment. While the Scrum Master helps the team adopt good practices, and the product owner contributes to understanding the items, the ownership and active management of the sprint backlog, including its transparency, rests with the developers. They are the ones who define, inspect, and adapt their plan, making its visibility crucial for their self-management. Question 16. A Scrum team has been together for several sprints, but the developers are still struggling to truly self-manage, often waiting for the Scrum Master or product owner to assign tasks. What Scrum value is most lacking here? I. Courage. B. Focus. C. Respect. D. Commitment. Answer: I. Courage. Courage is a crucial Scrum value that allows the developers to do the right thing and work on tough problems, including making their own decisions and taking initiative. If developers are waiting for assignments instead of self-organizing and taking ownership, they are lacking the courage to step up and manage their own work and collective plan. The Scrum Master should coach them to build this courage, fostering an environment where they feel empowered to make decisions and challenge the status quo. Courage empowers teams to embrace their self-managing mandate fully. Question 17. Which statement accurately describes the role of the Scrum Master regarding impediments? I. The Scrum Master is solely responsible for resolving all impediments for the developers. B. The Scrum Master coaches the developers to remove their own impediments and removes impediments they cannot. C. The Scrum Master documents impediments and presents them to management for resolution. D. The Scrum Master ensures the developers are aware of impediments but takes no direct action. Answer: B. The Scrum Master coaches the developers to remove their own impediments and removes impediments they cannot. The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team by removing impediments to their progress, but this role also involves coaching the developers to become more self-managing and handle impediments on their own. For example, if a developer needs access to a tool, the Scrum Master might first coach them on how to request it themselves before stepping in to facilitate. The Scrum Master acts as a facilitator and barrier remover, addressing obstacles that are beyond the team's control or capability. This approach builds team autonomy while ensuring blockers are resolved. Question 18. What is the relationship between the product goal and the product backlog? I. The product goal is an item within the product backlog. B. The product backlog contains all the details needed to achieve the product goal. C. The product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team, and the product backlog is an ordered list of what is needed to achieve it. D. The product goal is created after the product backlog is finalized. Answer: C. The product goal is the long-term objective for the Scrum team, and the product backlog is an ordered list of what is needed to achieve it. The product goal is the commitment for the product backlog, serving as the long-term objective that guides the Scrum team. It describes a future state of the product, which the Scrum team intends to achieve. The product backlog then emerges as an ordered, detailed list of all the work, product backlog items, necessary to realize that product goal. Think of the product goal as the destination, and the product backlog as the evolving map to get there. Question 19. During sprint planning, the developers are unable to confidently forecast what they can accomplish in the upcoming sprint due to significant uncertainty about the work. What is the most appropriate action? I. Proceed with the sprint, assuming the developers will figure it out. B. Cancel sprint planning and reschedule it for when the product backlog items are clearer. C. Work with the product owner to refine a smaller set of high-priority product backlog items until they are sufficiently clear for forecasting. D. The Scrum Master should assign tasks to the developers to ensure a full sprint backlog. Answer: C. Work with the product owner to refine a smaller set of high-priority product backlog items until they are sufficiently clear for forecasting. For developers to forecast effectively during sprint planning, product backlog items need to be sufficiently clear and well understood. If there's too much uncertainty, it's a sign that more product backlog refinement is needed, focusing on the highest priority items. The Scrum team, particularly the developers and product owner, should collaborate to clarify these items until the developers feel confident in creating a sprint backlog. This ensures a more realistic and achievable sprint goal. Question 20. When is an increment considered done according to Scrum? I. When the product owner accepts the completed work. B. When all work planned for the sprint is finished. C. When it meets the definition of done. D. When it has been deployed to production. Answer: C. When it meets the definition of done. The definition of done is a formal description of the state of the increment when it meets the quality measures required for the product. An increment is done when it satisfies this definition of done, making it potentially releasable, regardless of whether the product owner has formally accepted it or if it has been deployed. This commitment ensures transparency and a common understanding of what done means, driving quality and consistency across all work. Question 21. A Scrum team has consistently met its sprint goals for the past 3 sprints. What does this primarily indicate? I. The team's velocity is stable and should be used for future capacity planning. B. The product owner is effectively managing the product backlog. C. The developers are effectively self-managing and forecasting their work. D. The Scrum Master is successfully removing all impediments. Answer: C. The developers are effectively self-managing and forecasting their work. Consistently meeting sprint goals indicates that the developers are effectively collaborating, making accurate forecasts of what they can accomplish within a sprint, and adapting their plan daily. This showcases their self-management and ability to commit to and achieve their objectives. While other factors like product owner clarity and Scrum Master support contribute, the consistent achievement of the sprint goal is a direct reflection of the developer's execution and planning capabilities. Question 22. What is the time box for sprint planning? I. 4 hours for a 1-month sprint. B. 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. C. As long as necessary to refine all product backlog items. D. 2 hours for a 2-week sprint. Answer, B. 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. Sprint planning is time-boxed to a maximum of 8 hours for a 1-month sprint. For shorter sprints, the event is usually shorter. This time box ensures that the planning process is efficient and doesn't drag on, focusing the Scrum team on selecting a manageable amount of work and creating a clear plan for the sprint. The time box helps the team prioritize and make timely decisions about what can be achieved. Question 23. Who is required to attend the sprint review? I. The Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Developers. B. The Product Owner and key stakeholders only. C. The Scrum Master and Developers only. D. The Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developers, and relevant stakeholders. Answer, D. The Scrum Master, Product Owner, Developers, and relevant stakeholders. The sprint review is a collaborative working session, and all members of the Scrum team, Scrum Master, Product Owner, and Developers, must attend. Additionally, key stakeholders are invited to participate, inspect the increment, and collaborate on adapting the product backlog. This inclusive attendance ensures broad feedback and alignment on the product's direction. It's a prime opportunity for critical feedback and collaboration with those impacted by the product. Question 24. What happens if the sprint goal becomes obsolete during a sprint? I. The developers immediately stop all work and wait for a new sprint goal from the product owner. B. The Scrum Master works with the product owner to adjust the sprint goal to a more realistic one. C. The product owner has the authority to cancel the sprint. D. The Scrum team continues working on the remaining sprint backlog items. Answer, C. The product owner has the authority to cancel the sprint. Only the product owner has the authority to cancel the sprint, although they may do so after consulting with stakeholders, the developers, or the Scrum Master. A sprint might be cancelled if the sprint goal becomes obsolete or the product vision changes drastically. Canceling a sprint is a serious event because it consumes resources, so it's done only when a major shift renders the current sprint goal irrelevant. Question 25. The developers are having a conflict about the best technical approach to implement a product backlog item. What is the most appropriate action for the Scrum Master? I. Mediate the discussion and impose a technical decision to resolve the conflict quickly. B. Advise them to table the discussion until the sprint retrospective. C. Coach the developers on conflict resolution techniques and facilitate their discussion to reach a solution. D. Consult with a technical expert outside the team to provide a definitive answer. Answer, C. Coach the developers on conflict resolution techniques and facilitate their discussion to reach a solution. The Scrum Master serves the developers by coaching them in self-management and cross-functionality, which includes resolving their own internal conflicts. Rather than making a decision for them or escalating the issue, the Scrum Master should facilitate the discussion, guide them through conflict resolution, and help them arrive at a consensus or a decision they can own. This empowers the developers to strengthen their self-managing capabilities. Question 26. Who is accountable for creating the definition of done? I. The Scrum Master, in consultation with the developers. B. The product owner, to ensure releasable increments. C. The developers, as the people performing the work. D. The Scrum team collaboratively, but if it is part of the organization's standards, the developers must follow it. Answer, D. The Scrum team collaboratively, but if it is part of the organization's standards, the developers must follow it. If the definition of done is not part of the organization's larger standards, the developers must create one for the product. However, the Scrum Guide states that the Scrum team, including the product owner, Scrum Master, and developers, collectively works to ensure it is understood and adhered to. If the organization already has a definition of done, the developers must adhere to it and can then augment it with additional, product-specific criteria. This ensures a shared understanding of quality. Question 27. What is the least effective way for a Scrum Master to ensure the Scrum team adheres to Scrum theory and practices? I. Act as a servant leader, coaching the team on Scrum principles. B. Facilitate Scrum events and ensure they are positive and productive. C. Mandate specific tools and processes for the developers to follow. D. Remove impediments that hinder the team's progress. Answer, C. Mandate specific tools and processes for the developers to follow. A Scrum Master acts as a servant leader, coaching and facilitating rather than dictating. Mandating specific tools or processes goes against the principles of self-management and empiricism, which empower the developers to determine the best way to do their work. The Scrum Master's role is to guide and support the team in their adoption of Scrum, not to control their technical decisions or work methods. Trust the team to figure out their how. Question 28. What best describes the state of the product backlog throughout a product's lifecycle? I. It is fixed once the product goal is established. B. It is detailed and complete from the start of the project. C. It is emergent, ordered, and continuously refined. D. It changes only during sprint planning meetings. Answer, C. It is emergent, ordered, and continuously refined. The product backlog is dynamic and never complete. It is emergent, meaning it continuously evolves with new items, changes, and refinements as more is learned about the product and its market. The product owner is accountable for ordering it based on value, risk, and other factors, and the entire Scrum team engages in product backlog refinement to add details, estimates, and order. This continuous evolution is a hallmark of an agile approach. Question 29. The developers frequently interrupt each other during the daily Scrum, leading to extended discussions and loss of focus. What should the Scrum Master do? I. Inform the product owner, who should then address the developers. B. Cancel the daily Scrum until the developers can conduct it respectfully. C. Coach the developers on communication etiquette and facilitate the meeting to maintain focus and respect for the time box. D. Take over leading the daily Scrum to ensure it stays on track. Answer, C. Coach the developers on communication etiquette and facilitate the meeting to maintain focus and respect for the time box. The Scrum Master serves the Scrum team by ensuring that Scrum events are positive, productive, and kept within their time box. If the developers are struggling with the daily Scrum's format or etiquette, the Scrum Master should coach them on how to conduct it effectively, reinforcing Scrum values like respect and focus, and potentially facilitating the meeting to guide the discussion back on track. This empowers the team to improve their own practices, rather than the Scrum Master taking control. Question 30. During a sprint, a developer identifies a new technical dependency that was not previously known and will likely prevent the team from completing the sprint goal. What should be the immediate action? I. The developer should address this with the product owner after the sprint review. B. The developer should raise this issue during the next daily Scrum for team discussion. C. The Scrum Master should immediately cancel the sprint. D. The developer should try to resolve the dependency alone to avoid disrupting the sprint. Answer, B. The developer should raise this issue during the next Daily Scrum for team discussion. The Daily Scrum is the primary event for developers to inspect progress toward the sprint goal and adapt the sprint backlog. A newly identified dependency that threatens the sprint goal is a critical impediment that needs immediate transparency and team discussion. By raising it in the Daily Scrum, the developers can collectively devise a plan to address it, potentially involving the Scrum Master or Product Owner for resolution. Open communication is key to navigating such challenges. Question 31. What is the primary reason for timeboxing all Scrum events? I. To ensure all work is completed efficiently within a sprint. B. To limit waste and ensure that enough time is spent on planning, inspection, and adaptation without overinvesting. C. To prevent stakeholders from dominating discussions. D. To standardize the rhythm of development across multiple teams. Answer, B. To limit waste and ensure that enough time is spent on planning, inspection, and adaptation without overinvesting. Timeboxing is a fundamental practice in Scrum designed to create regularity and prevent excessive time being spent on any single event. It ensures that events are just long enough to achieve their purpose effectively, forcing focus and encouraging brevity. This practice minimizes waste and allows the Scrum team to maintain a sustainable pace across all its activities, optimizing for continuous value delivery. Question 32. Which artifact directly represents the current increment of work being created during a sprint? I. Product Backlog. B. Sprint Goal. C. Sprint Backlog. D. Increment. Answer, C. Sprint Backlog. The sprint backlog is composed of the sprint goal, the set of product backlog items selected for the sprint, and the developer's plan for delivering the increment. It directly represents the work the developers plan to perform during the sprint to create the next increment. While the increment is the outcome, the sprint backlog is the dynamic, real-time plan that guides the creation of that increment. It's the living blueprint for the sprint's work. Question 33. Who is accountable for fostering the Scrum team's self-management? I. The Product Owner. B. The Scrum Master. C. The developers. D. The Project Manager. Answer, B. The Scrum Master. The Scrum Master is accountable for establishing Scrum as defined in the Scrum Guide, which includes helping everyone understand Scrum theory and practice. A key part of this is coaching the Scrum team, especially the developers, in self-management and cross-functionality. While the developers practice self-management, the Scrum Master fosters the environment and provides the coaching to enable it. This support is crucial for the team's growth and autonomy. Question 34. What is a key characteristic of product backlog items that are deemed ready for a sprint? I. They are fully estimated and assigned to specific developers. B. They are small enough to fit within a single day of work. C. They are sufficiently transparent, understood, and can be done within one sprint. D. They have been approved by all relevant stakeholders. Answer, C. They are sufficiently transparent, understood, and can be done within one sprint. While definition of ready is not a formal Scrum term, the concept implies that product backlog items selected for a sprint must be clear enough for the developers to understand and implement. This means they should be sufficiently transparent, detailed, estimated, and sized such that the developers can confidently select them and create a done increment within a sprint. This clarity enables effective sprint planning and execution. Question 35. The Scrum Master observes that the developers are becoming overly focused on individual tasks and less on the collective sprint goal. What is the most effective approach for the Scrum Master? I. Remind them daily during the daily Scrum to collaborate more. B. Coach them on the importance of the sprint goal as a collective objective and how their individual efforts contribute to it. C. Reorganize the sprint backlog to encourage more pair programming. D. Report their lack of collaboration to the product owner. Answer: B. Coach them on the importance of the sprint goal as a collective objective and how their individual efforts contribute to it. The Scrum Master's role is to coach the Scrum team, and in this situation, they should reinforce the importance of the sprint goal as the unifying objective for the developers. By helping the team understand how individual tasks contribute to the overall sprint goal, the Scrum Master fosters a sense of collective responsibility and collaboration. This coaching empowers the team to self-organize around achieving the goal together, aligning individual efforts with the team's shared objective.